Hello, you're watching TelecomTV. My name is Martin Warwick and I'm here with an old friend, Brian Levy, who is CTO, Service Provider, Sector EMEA with Juniper Networks. Brian, long time no see, but great to see you. We've known each other for a long time now, various guises here and there. We're going to talk about SDN and NFV. Now, if you listen to the hype merchants, it's a bit like sort of Superman. Clark Kent runs into the doorway, whizzes round, and comes out in his Superman kit. That's what's happened with SDN. It suddenly burst onto the scene out of seemingly nowhere, but that's not the case really, is it? Because there's been a lot of talk about the virtual telco, virtual networks and so on over the years. Where is SDN and NFV now? Is it as unique as people say it is?
Martin, it's not new. We were talking about this stuff back in, I think originally about 2003, I think around about 2006 in SoftNet, we were talking about applications running on the network, we were talking about reusable components on the network, exposing capabilities to the higher level. So it's not new. Virtualization, by the way, is not new. The IT industry has been using this for years. It's the way they drove efficiencies into compute platforms, and now we're sort of bringing that technology to network functions as opposed to IT functions and services. So that's not new. SDN is about the control of the network, the centralization of the control, the bringing together of the intelligence of the network to a higher plane. And therefore, because you've got a more holistic view of the network infrastructure, and you can combine that with the ability to move services around the network in virtualized components, you create a tremendously agile infrastructure. In my mind, there are two real goals to this whole SDN and NFV kind of world. Number one is about, as I described, the network efficiency. It's not just about cost reduction, it's about the whole idea of really getting a lot more out of the infrastructure, so it's about service enablement as well. So the network from a service enablement perspective and a cost reduction perspective. And then the second thing really is about user experience. Deriving new services with these capabilities, so you've now got more capable network than you had before, therefore it's able to do more, and the things that it can do more can enable you to drive new services.
Okay then. We could talk about the technology, but we'll put that to one side for a moment and let's look at the market. Where are the underlying opportunities for service providers as far as SDN and NFV are concerned?
Well, I'm glad you're saying that, Martin, because that's dear to my heart, as you know. I think often we talk about the cost reduction side of things, and that's okay, and we're doing a lot of things to improve efficiency. But as a CTO, what kind of interests me is also how we can do greater things for our customers, how we can help our service provider customers and their customers get a better experience, generate more revenue, you know? And around that is really the whole evolution that's going on to cloud at the moment. I actually think if you look at cloud from the wider context of what it can do and what it will enable, then that's where the opportunity in my mind is for service providers. So let me explain that. Juniper is, at the moment, outsourcing applications into the cloud, internal applications. Our email is now in the cloud. We use Microsoft Office 365. Our customer list, our customer information is in Salesforce.com. That's out in the cloud. But it's not just Juniper doing this. IT organizations, enterprises across the world, there's a major trend to moving applications that used to be inside the enterprise out into the cloud. And as that happens, people are asking questions like, what about security? What about what's happening to my data? That's because the big thing is I'm not just putting out my application. I'm actually outsourcing my data as well into this cloud infrastructure. So where does it go? How is it secure? What's happening? How do I get the performance out of it when I need to get a business outcome done in a certain amount of time? How can I guarantee that I can do that in the cloud environment when before it was all inside my infrastructure and I could actually handle that? Now for telcos that represents quite a big opportunity. As I talk to telcos around the world, there are three areas that they talk about where they can differentiate themselves in this new world of cloud. The first one they talk about is we can leverage our network, of course. Leveraging their network to deliver what? An end-to-end user experience. We can guarantee the performance of an application and for all the way, right the way through the data center, right the way through the network to the end user to deliver the experience that end user wants to get. And we can deliver different experiences for different requirements that the customer might have. That's something that really only a network provider, because they can leverage their network, can really do that end-to-end. So that's one. And that also allows them to move further up the stack of applications that you can't do in the internet, but you can do in a more controlled environment and add further value to the customer. The other area that they can do is a single point of contact. They talk about this. One throat to choke is the first place they say. You don't have to ring up the cloud service provider. It's not working well. They say, well, it's the network provider. It's them. There's a bad network. The network provider, there's nothing wrong with our network. Must be your cloud. You don't have to get into any of that. So you've got one place to go. One bill. One bill becomes a really important point. We got one bill for the service, simple, easy, and by the way, we can add other services. So the other opportunity is for service providers to become aggregators for cloud services. Again, they can deliver a security, user experience, all these things around those services, so they act as a channel to market. So one service provider in Scandinavia that I'm talking about is putting a big link into Microsoft Azure at the moment, and they're delivering Office 365 to their country with security and performance, and Microsoft like it as a channel to market. And if you want it, you just tick on their service, on their web portal, you want to have Office. Now, they have Salesforce.com as well, and they have a pipe to them, and you can tick that. And they can put that all on their single bill, single user experience, single place to call, one place. If your Salesforce.com is not working, you go to them and you say, nice and easy. People understand that extensible model. They have that ability. The third one is a little bit more difficult to understand, perhaps, but it's a question of trust. We know that in enterprises we've had things like Sarbanes-Oxley and compliance and all these sorts of things. They don't go away when you use the cloud, So if you're a CIO and you're concerned about those sorts of things, and you are, then you want to know that the provider of the services that you're using in the cloud can give you the compliance, the security of your data. That's pretty important. That is your real crown jewel. So when you take that outside of the enterprise, how do you deal with that? Now, in order to deal with that technically, there's a lot of things we're doing in Juniper to create new environments like virtualized firewalls, virtualized routers, all sorts of new elements that enable the service provider to get this network agility and capability to deliver this. But for the service provider, there's a huge opportunity to build those sorts of services end-to-end around that, right the way through the data center and the network, and the new kind of OSSs that go across that to deliver that new experience. To me, that's the future.
And while we're on the subject, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that nobody ever seems to want to talk about whatsoever, which is, how is anybody going to make any money out of this?
Well, that to me is where they make the money, because I think people will pay to. When you talk to a CIO particularly, and you talk to an enterprise CIO about any type of service that they have, they look at where the best place to put that is to deliver the business outcome that they need at the right economic cost. And we can see this whole trend of enterprises moving their applications out into the cloud. Now that's a movement in the value chain. That means that money is going to move from one place to another place. I'd like that money to move to the service providers, because I think there's a phenomenal opportunity for them to deliver, which I think they're so uniquely placed to do, a real experience to the customer. And in delivering that experience to the customer, they can make more revenue, and we can provide some of the enablers to them to allow them to do that.
We're running out of time, but a final question to you, Brian. It's been said for ages and ages that applications need to be network aware.
Yes.
But they're not, are they?
No. And the reality is there might be the odd one in the margin, but the reality is no. But in a way, networks are going to become much more aware of applications. And what I described in the case where the telco is actually delivering an application end-to-end with a guaranteed level of performance means that the overall experience is being controlled. Now, how you do that technically, do you think the end user cares about? Not at all, right? So in some cases, by working with an application vendor and as we start to build the channel to market, the revenue around that whole ecosystem, don't worry. If you're an application provider and it's in your interests to do something a certain technical way in order to enable that end-to-end value chain that benefits you, what are you going to do? You're going to do it, right? And in that equation, there will be applications that will talk to networks, and networks will understand applications far more than they do today. But it doesn't mean that all applications have to talk to networks in order to deliver that experience. It doesn't mean that. There are other ways that you can do that. You can detect the application, you could have a dedicated link into Microsoft. You know what it is, it's Microsoft, and you can decide what levels of quality, maybe different levels you want to provide for different applications that Microsoft have, that you can deliver to market, the gold, bronze, silver service, that what people are willing to pay for in order to get the experience they need in order to meet their business outcomes. Now, if you think about the internet and you say to yourself, well, can all of this be done over the internet? Can everything we do, even with the highest bandwidth guarantee? No, there are all sorts of bottlenecks in the internet somewhere along the way that don't allow you to do certain things. And when you look at what's really happening, at how many applications are going out to the internet, and you look at the different categories of applications, you find that email is quite simple. Most people, you can do that sort of stuff. But some of the other things, you know, the ERP, some of the other things further down there, they're not really going out there because the performance, the security, the business value of it, how do I ensure the data value of it, when those things can be answered in a far greater way, then there's an opportunity to move a value chain. We saw what moving a value chain did to the whole music industry. It changed the whole, who made money in that market, it changed everything. This is a real structural move that's happening. It's happening. You can, the analysts show it, it's out there, you know, enterprises are moving these applications now. This is a trend that's not stopping, it's growing. So the industry needs to get on the back of that, and we'll help them do that with some of the technologies that we have and with the vision that we have to deliver this new horizon.
Brian Levy, always a pleasure. Great to see you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Martin.